So it's a bit daunting for even me. When I was writing, I was like, whoa, this is huge. But it's important to break it down in a simplified version. And in fact, there is a simplified version that has been created in simple language. You can find that on UPDK's website, on my social media platforms, if you want to read it. Now, I'll go through a few of them. Number one, the recognition of neurodiverse disabilities and conditions, like has been said just now. That wasn't there before in the Act. So now if you have autism, if you have developmental disabilities, if you have ADHD, CP, MS, anything else that is deemed as an invisible or a neurodiverse disability, you are now covered by the law. Second thing I would like to highlight is the retirement age has now been added for people with disabilities from 60, which is for the general public, but for PWDs it's now 65. Because we understood when I was drafting it and I was consulting with all these gentlemen here and other Kenyans at large, that people with disabilities, you know, we take a little bit longer to get situated in life, unfortunately, because of all of the barriers that have been mentioned. We don't get to school on time. If we do get to primary school, getting to high school is an issue. Getting into the workplace, you'll find a 40-year-old with their first job, maybe a 50-year-old with their very first job. And so that we don't even have time to be able to accrue wealth, you know, to get savings and to retire with dignity. So we have increased the retirement age to 65 for PWDs. That's the third one. The fourth one I would like to mention is punitive action on people who use PWDs or children with disabilities to beg in the streets. Before that, it was not criminalized. Imagine, that's why you see many people with disabilities on every corner from 8 to 8 p.m., you know, like it's their job. But actually there is a cartel. There are people who are using them in nefarious ways behind them, and now the Act is protecting against using people with disabilities to beg or for alms in any way. Another one, I'd like to say the fifth one is matters accessibility. We're now saying if a building is not accessible, that you can have punitive action against you. Not just a building though, also a technology, whether you're a bank, ATM machines, PDQs in restaurants and any other stores, government services like Each Citizen. If these digital platforms as well are not accessible to PWDs, you can also be called up by Alex and his team at the council and to be told, hey, you need to comply as per the PWD Act of 2025. Another one I'd like to mention is on affordable housing. Anything that government builds, whether it's housing or market stalls, as it's been mentioned, we have 5% allocation of PWDs. So affordable housing, if you see one going up in your neighborhood or in your ward or constituency, you should go and ask how many units have been set aside for PWDs, because the Act says 5% minimum of all of these buildings and commercial areas should be for PWDs. Another one I'd like to mention is, well, tax exemption has been talked about for caregivers and PWDs as well. But what has not been mentioned yet is incentives for employers. People who are looking for employers with disabilities. Already, the Constitution talks about 5% of all jobs, whether in public or private sector, should be given to PWDs, right? But it never had incentives attached to them, because people or employers sort of feel scared. We don't know how to handle, how do we employ, what do they need? Do we need to break down a wall? Do we need to build it, you know? Lots of myths basically that had to be busted. But the other way around that was to say, hey, if you hire a PWD in your workplace and you show that you have made reasonable accommodations to accommodate this employee, then you can get tax reliefs and tax rebates from KRA as well, so that we can actually incentivize you to hire more PWDs. Like I said, we're brilliant, we're educated, we have ambition, we have so much to give to society, but the workplace right now is scared of us, let's just put it simply, right? Because they don't understand us and how to accommodate us. So that's another one that's in there. Hospitals as well have mandates to be inclusive, to be inclusive healthcare, to provide medication and healthcare for free. So people with disabilities, if you have a card, if you are registered with National Council, then you actually can enjoy free healthcare in all facilities in the country. Another thing I should probably as well mention, gosh, there's so much, I'm trying to not choose the best of the greatest hits.
Right.
Another thing I should mention is on judicial arm. Now it mandates for courts as well to be inclusive, to have sign language interpretation. Every courtroom, if there is a case going on with a person with disability involved, there has to be an SLI, there has to be Braille material in the court systems, there has to be basically inclusivity from the top to the bottom. So the judiciary has also been put on notice, and I'm glad that the CJ, Madam Martha Koome, has acknowledged this act and has supported its implementation, is actually pushing her arm of government to comply. So that is also in there. So many good things, so many good things.
So many indeed.